If you've been watching Stranger Things since season 1, you know one thing for certain. This show doesn't shy away from killing beloved characters. Barb, Bob, Billy, Eddie. Each death served a narrative purpose. But there's one death that's been building since the very beginning. And if you pay attention to the psychology of storytelling, it's crystal clear who is going to die in the season 5 finale. Steve Harrington. And it's going to break our hearts. But why Steve? Why not Jonathan? Why not Hopper or even Dustin? Today, we're analyzing the psychology of the quote, zero, to prove why Steve's death is not just likely, it's necessary for the story to be complete. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about what makes a satisfying character death. In screenwriting, there's a concept called earned death. A character's death must feel inevitable, emotional, and thematically complete. It can't be random. Steve Harrington started as a stereotypical high school bully in season 1. He was shallow, selfish, and obsessed with popularity. But over 5 seasons, we watched him transform into the group's protector, the babysitter, the guy who runs into danger without hesitation. This is what psychologists call a quote two. Steve has been atoning for his past sins. And redemption arcs in storytelling almost always end the same way, with sacrifice. Think about it. Darth Vader, Severus Snape, Jaime Lannister. Characters who start as antagonists or flawed individuals often die saving the people they once hurt. It's poetic justice. Steve hurt Nancy emotionally in season 1. He spent every season since proving he's worthy of her respect, even if he can't have her love. His final act? Dying to save her. Now let's compare him to Jonathan Byers. Jonathan is a good person. He always has been. He's protective, selfless, and loyal. But here's the problem. Jonathan dying wouldn't hit as hard. Why? Because he hasn't changed. His character arc is flat. He started as the quiet protector, and he still is. There's no psychological transformation, no redemption to complete. If Jonathan dies, it's sad, but it's not cathartic. Steve's death, on the other hand, would be the culmination of 5 seasons of growth. It would prove that he became the hero he was always meant to be. And that's what makes great storytelling. There's also the love triangle closure angle. Nancy has been torn between Steve and Jonathan for years. If Steve dies saving her, it removes the choice. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that honors his love for her without forcing her to reject him. It's bittersweet. He gets to be her hero one last time, and she gets to move forward without guilt. Psychologically, this gives both characters closure. Nancy doesn't have to hurt Steve by choosing Jonathan, and Steve doesn't have to live with the pain of watching her love someone else. His sacrifice frees them both. Let's look at the foreshadowing. In season 4, Steve almost died in the Upside Down. He was dragged underwater, strangled by vines, and had bats literally eating him alive. He survived, but barely. That wasn't just a close call. That was a preview. The Duffer Brothers are showing us that Steve is willing to die for this group. And in storytelling, if a character almost dies once, they usually die for real the second time. It's called Chekhov's gun. If you show a loaded gun in Act 1, it has to go off in Act 3. Steve's near death in season 4 was the loaded gun. Volume 2 is Act 3. Finally, there's the Eddie Munson parallel. Eddie died in season 4 as the quote-o. He was the metalhead outcast who sacrificed himself to buy time. His death was tragic because he finally proved he wasn't a coward. But Eddie was new. We only knew him for 1 season. Steve? We've known him for 5. If Steve dies the same heroic death, but with 5 seasons of emotional investment, the impact will be devastating. And that's exactly what the Duffer Brothers want. They want us to cry. They want us to feel the weight of this final battle. And Steve is the character whose death will hurt the most. So here's my prediction. In Volume 2, there will be a moment where Nancy is in mortal danger. Maybe Vecna has her, maybe she's trapped, and Steve will make the choice. He'll throw himself into the fire, literally or metaphorically, to save her. He'll look at her one last time, smile that classic Steve smile, and say something like, "Go get him, Wheeler." And then he'll be gone. Jonathan will hold Nancy as she cries, Dustin will break down, and we, the audience, will realize that Steve Harrington's journey from selfish jock to selfless hero is complete. Do I want Steve to die? Absolutely not. He's one of the best characters in the show. But do I think he will? Yes. Because his death is the only one that makes narrative and psychological sense. What do you think? Is Steve doomed? Or will the Duffer Brothers surprise us? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to know what happens to Max in Volume 2, click this video right here. The theory is wild.